Hi, everybody. This is Mandy Speaks Up. I am Mandy, and for today's episode, we are going to do it in honor of October, Halloween, scary month, and we want to talk about a true horror story. So, many of us have lived our own personal horror stories. We've lived lives and stories of incredible immense pain or suffering, or just things that if you tell others, their jaw drops. Their eyes get really big. And so for today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about what the hell were we afraid of when we escaped a cult? The fear of hell, going to a literal burning hell. Yes, at one time I did believe that. And then escaping a cult, and also personally escaping religion. Because all of that, if you know, you know. You have lived a life of constant fear. And so for today's guest, we have Amber, and I'm so honored to have her here because we're going to go into a discussion and we're going to talk about her own life, how she also escaped a cult, a different cult as mine. The organization that I escaped from in 2018 was called the Potter's House CFM. It's an international organization and they do a lot of recruiting. They taught me how to recruit. They teach you how to love bomb, and it is a agenda marry you off, and so you can begin to create literal organization babies. They work like an MLM. So I just want to welcome our guest Amber. I want you to introduce yourself and go ahead and share a little bit of why you're here and what you want to share and escaping your own personal horror story.
Okay, so I'm Amber, and I belong to a non-denominational religion, and they say that they don't have a name, but for um, people on the outside, if you were to if you wanted to research for yourself, it would be like the 2x2s or the worker religion, and it's very they try to stay really obscure and they don't want to give out a name, and they'll say that there's no money, which is just not really true. And I left in around 2011. I My parents joined when I was around 7, so at age 7 we got rid of our TV. We started wearing skirts all the time. There was no more cutting your hair. They didn't really celebrate holidays or anything. So we went from celebrating Christmas to there's no Santa, there's no Easter Bunny. And I vividly remember my mom kind of explaining God to me. And I remember saying, what if there isn't a God? And she said, don't ever say that again. There's a God. And pretty much the premise is don't question anything. They encourage you to stay off the internet. Don't be, doing your research, because anybody posting anything negative about this religion is, an outsider who, has ill intentions. So that's basically, I just grew up not questioning anything. And really, I think the underlying emotion all the time was just shame and fear that I was not good enough. So even if you were a good person, it was if the righteous scarcely be saved, where does that leave the sinners? So it's just, you're always afraid. And if you even think about doing something, that's a sin, which for me, I always wanted to paint my nails. So anytime I would have the thought that I wish I could paint my nails red, it was a sin already. So it was just constantly trying not to have an unconscious thought, right? Because your unconscious thoughts equaled sin. So it was a really confusing, very confusing way to grow up, and just made me completely unsure of myself all the time.
So you had so much fear, but you had so much fear internally, even in the thought. So fear of action, but also fear of even thinking.
Yep.
If you wanted to do something that was considered sin.
Correct. And you can't question why things are a sin, because if you're questioning it, it's like equal to questioning the Lord. And they have like workers, and you don't question anything they say either. So they're kind of like on a pedestal of, pretty much at the same
Mm-hmm.
level as God. So whatever they say goes. So you just never question anything, and you don't trust your own instincts. So if there's people around you, even in the religion, especially in the religion, because you think nobody in there has any bad intentions. But even when you're, well, actually, when you're an an insider, and then the outsiders also have bad intentions. So you just don't trust your instincts on anyone, and you don't really trust anyone, and there's no one to ask questions to. So you're, at least for me, I was not the type to like question anything because I was just terrified. So I just went through my whole childhood being like, I'm never going to be good enough, and I'm a sinner, and there's no way that um like God's not disappointed in me 100% of the time. So yeah,
That's such a
it
terrible way to live.
yeah, yep.
Did you deal with like growing up, especially like teenage years, did you deal with like depression, or if you did, how did you cope with the seriousness of growing up and now you're having to become a mold of or a replica of like everything they teach?
I think that, I don't know if it was ever like directly said to me, but you, like, depression is a bad, at least from my perspective, people shouldn't be depressed. So I would say that I had a lot of anxiety. I was very anxious all the time. Um, so I don't know about depression, but I definitely felt very just anxious, and I've suffered from anxiety my entire adult life, and I think it stems from being a kid who was like, I don't know I have no idea what I should be doing. I am going to have thoughts that I shouldn't be having, and just a lot of confusion about everything with no one to ask, because if I'm questioning anything, then I'm a sinner. So um yeah, that's about, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, so do you know how your parents got into it?
I think that um so my dad owned a window company, and I believe that the person that they joined through did their taxes. So like, and I think initially when my parents joined, my grandma and grandpa owned the company, and then my dad was involved though. And so my grandma, grandpa, and my mom, dad, from what I understand, at the same time got interested in, started going, and they start out with like gospel meetings. So it'll be like the workers, which go out two by two. It's like two male workers or two female workers go out. They don't have homes. They live out of a suitcase, and they just stay in the homes of like the friends, is what they would call people in the congregation. Um, so they would have like these, I think they would refer to them as missions, but it would be essentially a gospel meeting like on a Thursday night, or what, could be any night of the week, but it's like an hour long, and then just the workers speak. So that's where you kind of, when you first start going to meeting, you're going to go to a gospel meeting first, and then if you're continue going, then they have meetings. A Sunday morning meeting would be in the home of like an elder, and they're the people that are part of the congregation also take part. So that's kind of the difference between a gospel meeting where just the workers are speaking and there's some hymns and prayers from the workers, and then the Sunday morning and Wednesday night Bible study, the congregation will actually take part as well.
So they don't have a physical building?
Nope. They have um Sunday morning meetings in the homes, and then the gospel meetings will typically be at like schools or like Legion halls or Sometimes if they're, the congregation members, if they have a business that has a big enough area for a meeting, they'll have the gospel meetings there. And then once a year they do conventions, which is like a 4 day, um, that's like, 2 2 hour meetings and then a 1 hour meeting. And then they have meals in between. Typically people stay on the grounds. There's bunks there, um, for people to sleep in. And then there's places to bring like a camper and stuff. And some people drive back and forth, but I think a lot, at least my family, they stayed on the grounds because they felt, um, in the spirit of convention or whatever, you should just stay on the grounds. I don't know. We just didn't really drive back and forth in my family, but so that's like a 4 day thing. And people really, it was like you were always looking forward to going to convention, and that was where you were gonna, get like a whole renewing for the year. And I remember going there, and it was just like worker after worker would speak, and people are sobbing. And I remember feeling like, wow, I've been such a bad person this year. And, all this stuff about how I was not living up to the expectations of what God would want for me were like laid on my heart. And I would be like, wow, um, I just really need to get back out and like be a better example and be more godly and whatever. So it was just a constant cycle of like, I don't know, almost like they're just beating you down and being like, you are still not good enough. Actually, you're like so far from even being close to making it to heaven. And that's what's so confusing now when I think about it. It's like, if you're being told constantly like you're never going to get there, why was I trying so hard to like be what like God would want of me? And that's actually, on that note, like when I was getting ready to leave, um I was in the midst of a divorce, which is extremely frowned upon. And I really wanted to stick out the marriage for my kids, and I really wanted to keep in this religion for my kids because I didn't want them to, they would say like a broken home, these kids will, they're just gonna have rough life and they're not going to turn out or whatever they would say. And I started thinking like, if God is really like a parent, and I can only say it from a mother's perspective, but I can't imagine like a dad would want me to feel in my marriage how I was feeling and to just stick it out and endure it. And then at the end of my life, after all of this suffering and even the suffering of my kids, right? Because they're going to see this example of a marriage that's not good for them. At the end of my life, after being like miserable and sticking it out, he's going to be like, well, good for you. You were miserable this whole time, but here's your reward for sticking it out. And there wasn't really any accountability for, you know, in this instance, my husband, but just generally men to behave like they should and be respectful of their wives and help with their kids and all of that. It was just kind of like, a pass to not really be a decent person. And because you were the man and the man was, women were supposed to be subjecting to the man, then you didn't question how your husband was treating you either.
Yeah, just all sounds so similar to like different cults and or control environments. I mean, a lot of stuff that you said is just like super similar to the things that I experienced. It's usually the men are in charge. You're gonna have multiple conventions or conferences, like they called them in the cult I was in, conferences. You're there for a week, basically to be pounded, into your mind, that you don't question the leaders, that you will go to hell and be cursed if you leave this organization. Your only purpose in life is to create for them the agenda that they have already put into, everybody that's there and those that are birthing children. They're wanting you to birth children so that they can continue to put that agenda in these kids. So then it's easier for them to grow into that and be
Mm-hmm.
molded. And then it's easier for them to continue with the agenda and the set of ideas that they're proclaiming is the only way. What kind of like what were their beliefs?
Um, let's see. What do we even know? I
Is it
don't
like
even know
is
if
it like a Christianity belief, like, God and
yeah,
Jesus?
so yes. So and this is another thing that so this is all like recently coming out. There's like kind of a scandal going on with this specific religion right now with it started off as like a sex abuse thing, but then like the origins, like they say, oh, this um came from Jesus, and all this stuff is just came from Jesus, and it was really like founded by a guy named William Irvine. But instead of being upfront about that, I think I can't remember the name of the other guy, but there was two guys that were like running the religion. They had a differing in opinion from what I understand or recall, and then they split off, and he creates this, the truth, quote unquote, and the other guy goes his other way. But instead of saying that that's what the where the origin was, they say, oh nope, it completely came from Jesus, and by the way, stay off the internet and like don't look this up for yourself.
Of course.
And so then some of the people that left started being like, no, this is incorrect. And so now a lot more people have been like made aware, and essentially, they're like, yep, we've been lied to all this time. But
They do
uh
have a show on one of the streaming services, right?
yes, it on Hulu, and I think it's exposing 2 by 2 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's on Hulu. um it goes very vaguely into the scandal right now and part of the origin, but it's also confusing for anyone who has not been part of a high control religion like this to even understand like the extent of what you go through mentally to even, I mean, there's so much brainwashing involved, and you cannot understand it unless you've been there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't understand like what it is to live in a place like that. What did your everyday life look like when you were in there?
So let's see. Growing up as a kid, I went to school. I had friends in school, but not very many, obviously, because I was the girl wearing dresses every day. And I was not allowed to hang out with my worldly friends, which would be people who aren't going to the church outside of school. So I um, pretty much just went to school and came home. I had a job, and then I started dating the guy that I eventually married when I was 15, and got married 2 weeks after I turned 18. So once we were married, and we kind of had a deal where I would stay home with the kids, which I'm very blessed that I was able to do, and I would not trade that. However, he did not want me to work, and once I did start working, because we needed to make ends meet, we had 4 kids, and um, I wanted to start going to school so that I could get a job when my youngest kid went to school, and he just did not want me to work because he didn't want me exposed to other men, is basically what it came down to. But so I was a homemaker. I stayed home with the kids and cleaned and cooked and did all the parenting things. Um, and really just didn't question um, him at all. And what started to be a source of like contention is that um, everything that he did, fishing or whatever, it was never like the kids and I were never included. So,
Mm.
and he had 2 weeks of vacation, which he felt entitled to use for him because he made all the money. That's another thing. It's like if somebody's making all the money and letting you know that like um, you're not contributing. So it's like I didn't feel like I had to say in anything because I wasn't bringing home any money. Um,
Hmm.
so it was very isolating and very confusing and very frustrating because at a certain point you're like, I just want to do the like we have this family, let's go fishing with the family together. And it was just never about the family. It was about him doing what he wanted to do, and me supporting him and taking care of the kids and all of that stuff so he could do the things that he wanted to do, and without question, because you just shouldn't question your husband.
Right. You don't question the male leadership. So what finally got you to wake up?
Um, well, I think that it took me a very long time, and I think it was about 3 years that I was like contemplating divorce and being like, I don't think I can do this. But it wasn't even telling my ex-husband that I wanted a divorce that was so scary. It was telling my dad. So I had to get up the courage to tell my dad that things were not working out. And by this point, my ex-husband was like isolating me so much that he didn't want to go. And we were always over at my parents' house helping with stuff, or we'd go over there and the kids and I would be with my mom, and then he would fish with my dad or whatever. To the point where we weren't even doing that anymore. So my dad kind of said, like, it seemed like things were weird, but we weren't really sure. You should have told us and stuff. And it's like, you can't really tell you though, because, and then when I did tell them, they basically were like, you can't leave, you can't get divorced. Like, you need to figure out a way to work it out. But, and I did plan on working it out, but just like, I think at the time that I asked him to leave, I really think that I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And then once he actually moved in with my mom and dad, which was supposed to be a short-term thing. Um, Once he was out and I could just breathe, and there was a lot of things going on at that time that I'm just not really going to get into, but I could just breathe without him looking, just doing the things that he was doing, basically, accusing me of cheating on him and stuff when I was getting groceries and stuff. Um, and I finally was just like, I can't do it. He leaves, and then every time I would think about him coming back, I would like have a panic attack and be like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do it. And really, I wanted to do it for my dad because I knew I was disappointing my dad, and that was like so heartbreaking. And it was the other part that was extremely heartbreaking was just um seeing my kids hurt, and like I really wanted to do it together with my ex and like explain things to the kids, like, this doesn't have anything to do with you guys, and he like refused. So it was always a conversation of like me talking to them and him putting other ideas in their head, or ask mom if you
Mm-hmm.
can come home, or things like that. So I went through all of that, and my parents were not going to be supportive of the divorce, and I just got to a point where I'm like, I this cannot be real. Like, this is, and they would say like they couldn't support it because of their religion, and I'm like, but I am struggling. I can't do what you're asking me to do, and it doesn't matter because your religion says it's wrong. And I'm just like, this cannot be how God feels. Like, if he feels about his children like I feel about my children, he does not want this is not what he wants for me. And so there was kind of like a flip there where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And then I had talked to somebody else who also went through a divorce in the religion, and she called me and she's like, hey, I heard about everything's going on, and she really just um she has validated like how it feels to go through a divorce in that religion, and was like, um and then she started telling me about like her research and what she had found, and like how religion is really was created to just control people and make them afraid, um to keep like order in society or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of the place of getting any kind of validation that like um
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, and this is not like you're this doesn't mean you're going to hell or you're a bad person. And sometimes people just have to do things like to survive, and this whole religion part of it is just telling you not to do it because they want to keep control of you. So that was pretty it was just such a relief to be able to connect with someone who's like, okay, I've been there. I know it's really hard. And let me just listen to you and validate the things that you're going through because it really sucks.
Oh, I'm so glad you had somebody to validate you because validation is a huge part of healing in the healing process. And that's why I wanted you to come and share your story because I know that there are people out there that it doesn't have to be a cult. You know, I always say that in a lot of my episodes is you don't have it doesn't have to be a cult. This it can be a very high control relationship, workplace, environment, situation that you're in, and usually it takes speaking up. Speaking up to somebody outside of this environment is going to bring you support because they're going to validate your experience, whether they've been through it or not. Sharing my story when I left to people, and their eyes would get really big and their jaw would drop. They couldn't believe that, you know, I'd been a child bride, you know, married in Texas under the age of 18, you're considered a child bride. I was 17, having to be married for all of those years. And I remember when I finally separated, I moved to Dallas with my sister, and I hadn't moved yet. I was just visiting, and I remember I was already separated, but I was going to go back after Christmas vacation. And I just remember looking in the mirror, and my whole body, similar to what you said, is like starts to panic and doesn't it my body believes that if I go back, I'm going back to him, going back to the
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And I literally just like start shaking, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I tell myself, don't worry, I'm never going to let that happen. I'm going to take care of you. We're not going back. And I started calming down. But it was actually physically having to get out of the situation and moving hours away. That's what was the main thing that started healing me because I was able to get away from, I was completely shunned from that community, but being able to not worry about running into them, not worrying about hearing about them, or knowing that they were not going to find me because I was many hours away. That brought so much healing. Then I was able to share my story, you know, with a holistic therapist, go into healing. Spent like 5 years of deep purging, detoxing the body of all memory and of all of the trauma that was stuck in my body and muscles, tendons. It was just stuck in my body. And that's why it was a continual, like different things were just trigger me, trigger me.
Yep.
And, you know, it's a horror story. It's a horror story. And then like the fear of hell, thinking that's what kept me in this environment for so long. It's like, if I leave, I'm going to go to hell. I'm going to die. I'm going to get cancer. They would say, you're going to get sick. You're going to die. You're going to lose all your money. You're going to be cursed, all kinds of stuff. So that kept me wanting to stay in this environment for so long. So it's like, I can't leave. I can't leave. Um, then finally I was like, you know what? The fear of staying was worse than the fear of leaving. It
Yep.
was like, fuck it. Like I'm just going to leave because I was just I was already having panic attacks in this environment, constant panic
Mm-hmm.
attacks. I didn't even know what a panic attack was. I didn't even know I was having panic attacks because they wouldn't talk about panic attacks or anxiety or depression because all of that just meant that you weren't praying enough, you weren't reading your
Yep.
Bible enough, you weren't tithing enough, you were disobedient to your husband, you're disobedient to the leaders. So here I was on the floor having panic attacks, and I couldn't even share it with anybody. I was all alone in my room just having panic attacks every so often. Didn't even know what was going on. I just knew that I couldn't breathe. I had felt like an elephant was on my chest. It would bring me to my knees. I didn't even know what the hell was going on, and I couldn't share it with anybody.
Yeah.
And it's scary to live a life like that. And then then internal fear of like, okay, I'm going to go to hell and be cursed. And then
Mm-hmm.
and that's not bad enough. It's like, well, if I leave, like you said, then my kids are going to be cursed. My kids are going to turn out all this like bad, and then they're going to look at that and be like, that's what you get because you left, and that's the curse, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
you got divorced because you left this place. Not, oh, maybe they divorced because like maybe this wasn't even the person that I wanted to be with. You were the one that encouraged me at the age of 17 instead of graduating high school to marry somebody I didn't even know. I knew him for 7 months. I knew him for seven
Yep.
months. And
Yeah.
and in that religion, we couldn't be alone with them. We couldn't, like, you couldn't like hug or like couldn't really sit next to them. Everything had to be until after marriage. Not just like sex, but kissing, holding hands, being alone with them. Like, we were not allowed to do any of that until marriage. So you don't even know them.
Yeah. Well, so they just wanted you to marry the leader and then make more children?
Yeah, and he
And were they
wasn't
having you
even the
get
leader.
married so young because you'd be more like impressionable or
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like,
okay.
wanted girls to get married really young, so that they for sure pressured. Like, I seen girls as young as 15 get married. One of the leader's daughters got married at 15 years old, and by the time she was, let me see, 15, 16, 17, 18, by the time she was like 18, 19, she already had 3 kids.
Oh
Boom, boom,
man,
boom, boom. And she was only 15 when she got
that was
married.
terrible.
And this was normal. Like, it was normal. Like, it was like you're watching it happen, and there's nothing you can do about it because her own father is okay with it. It's disgusting.
So
Um,
the parents sign off, and
yep.
so what is the, because I think in Wisconsin, where I'm from, you can get married at 16 if your parents sign off, but what is the cutoff in Texas?
If you're under 18, you need a parent to sign for it. And because my mom believed that it was a church, and I was marrying such a wonderful Christian man, then she signed for it. My
Ugh.
dad did my dad is a Marine. He always knew something was up about this place. But of course, he let us make our own decisions. But at the end of the day, like, it's a story that now I've made peace with it, and I have, like I said, 5 years of healing. But just being so scared to finally separate and divorce, and then finally doing it and feeling so much more happier and at peace, getting my own place, moving away with my kids. I got full custody of my kids. At that point, it was starting now from the beginning, blooming into a beautiful flower. And all the fear, like, a lot of people ask me, how did you get rid of the fear? How did you get rid of feeling the shame and the guilt and the fear? And it was like, I think what I did was that I just basically started from scratch, and it was like, what is fear? Like, there is no such thing as shame. There is no such thing as fear. There is no such thing as guilt. I make my rules. I do what I want. And I literally became like a 16-year-old again, because I was 16 when I went into the cult. And it was like I
Mm.
became a 16-year-old all over again. And it was like the thinking of a 16-year-old, like, hey, let me just have some fun. Let me see what my body thinks is fun. Let me have pleasure. Let me have fun. And let me figure out what I like. Because I couldn't even tell you what my favorite music was. I couldn't tell you what my favorite movies. I couldn't tell you that, because everything was formed into what they wanted. My
Mm-hmm.
favorite music was Christian music. My favorite movies were Christian movies. My favorite everything revolved around what they had told me I could do, what I couldn't do. And so
Yep.
when I left, and I'm sitting at the table with a friend, and her husband goes, "Hey, what's your favorite movies? What kind of music do you like?" And I was literally sitting there, and I'll never forget. It's when I knew something was not right. I looked at him, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't even know what music I liked outside
Mm-hmm.
of, and it was just insane. And so getting to just make my own decisions, going to my first bar, getting my sister buying me a cocktail for the first time, getting my first tattoo, getting to wear a bikini for the first time, getting to travel the US on road trips, not having to worry about going to church Sunday through Saturday, having to do all kinds of fucking mission shit, and just being able
Yep.
to just being like, I get to do this, I want to do this, I want to dance. Dancing did a lot of healing for me. Dancing, oh my god, I know when people think of dancing, like, oh, okay, when you go out and dance. No, like, dancing healed my body, because I couldn't dance for 17 and a half years inside of that place. Dancing was like evil and bad,
Yep.
so I could not dance. So what are some things that you did for the first time when you left?
Um, well, um, we did not drink at all, so I had alcohol. I would say dancing. I also um I still feel guilty about everything though. Still, I think I mean, I've done a lot of therapy, but I've done it um separate times when I'm like I just can't go anymore. So now I'm at a better phase of my life where I don't have to do therapy and I'm choosing to do different healing things. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. I think dancing would be really worthwhile, but it still feels because in the religion it was like if you're trying to dance, you're being sexual. Actually, a lot of stuff with women, it was like no matter what you're doing, you're trying to be sexual, you're trying to like turn the guys on, and then if they react in a sexual manner to you, it's your fault. And a lot of it is based off, don't have sex before you're married, and then if you do, then you have to marry the person. So it's just a whole like very toxic mentality of like everything a woman does um is interpreted as they're trying to be sexual. So it was a lot of like trying not to draw any attention to myself, especially sexual attention. And I started wearing jewelry and cutting my hair and wearing makeup and wearing pants. Wearing pants was a big one. And when I first left and started wearing pants regularly, I'd be like, what if I die in a car accident and then I'm wearing pants? Like, am I going to go to hell because I'm wearing
Oh my
pants?
gosh.
and then
Yes.
I and then I'm like, why? And then when you start to like
Whoa.
question things logically, it's like, why would God really give a crap at all if I'm wearing pants or a skirt? Why does he care? Like, why would that be
Right.
on the top list? But it's just these very trivial things that they use to like control the women. Because of course the men in the religion look just like any normal typical man. And the women, it's like a huge thing put on their shoulders to like look differently and have your hair in a bun. If you had your hair
Ugh.
down or even half up, then you're trying to be sexual and sexy. And um don't wear tank tops. Skirts had to be
Oh
below
my
the
gosh.
knee. It was
Mm-hmm.
just so like restrictive on every single aspect that it's like you come out of it and you're like, I don't know how to dress. I don't know how to do makeup. And I was very insecure about it too. So I would put makeup on and I would just feel so just gross about myself because I'm like, oh, you're trying to get attention because you're wearing makeup. And it's just like, it's not that deep. Like, I'm doing something to make myself feel good. I mean, I wear makeup now, but it's like more um always natural and not going to do a red lip because I just feel when I'm doing those things that people are perceiving me as trying to get attention, which I would
Mm-mm.
prefer the attention be off of me, to be really honest with you. But yeah, so it was a lot of just things that small things like wearing pants and cutting my hair and stuff. But then it was a whole um, anxiety thing too, because it was like, I want to do this for myself, but then I'm going to see my family and then I have to worry about their reaction. And I think that's been a
Mm.
really freeing thing that maybe just within the last 2 years of like, I've had tattoos for years and years, but when I would be around my parents, I would wear clothes that would cover them up. And
Mm.
I got a lot of my tattoos are under my clothing so that if I want them covered, they're covered. Um, so just kind of coming out and
And you still feel like this now? Like, do you
no,
still do
not
this stuff now?
no, nope. I would say in the last 2 years maybe I've started like
Oh, okay, that's
letting,
good.
yeah, where my dad, I'll be at his house and my tattoos will be showing and I'm like, I'm not gonna worry about it because it's not like his feelings
Yeah.
on what I'm doing. Like, I love him and I respect him, but his feelings about these trivial things that really do not matter in the grand scheme of things, even if he believes it to be so because of the brainwashing of his religion, I'm not letting it affect my life and my psyche So
Yeah,
that's
it's
been
got to be
really,
so
it's been
hard
hard.
to
Yeah.
have
'Cause I
family
don't,
still in it.
yeah, I don't want to hurt them, but I also need to like be authentic to who I am too.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I think that's the journey in life is coming back to yourself and being authentically you. I think honestly like that's what life is about. And you go through experiences, situations and horror stuff and you go through that, but at the end you're coming back to yourself. And if you can come back to yourself, you can remember who you have always been before the pain, before all of these things told you you had to look and be this way, and you come back to yourself, that is what I did in my healing process. That's who I am now. That's why I'm able to be completely free of all of the story that I've gone through, is because I am more me today than I have ever been. I am authentically me, and the way and the things that I do, I don't worry really what anybody says. And like my sister told me one time, she's like, you know what we admire about you is that you're the sister that doesn't give a fuck what people think about you. Like, and they're more tough. Like they're more outspoken. They've always been more outspoken. They were never like, besides one of my sisters was in the cult with me for 3 years, but she left. She was more outspoken than me. So she refused to have a man tell her what to do. She refused to allow any man to tell her that her only purpose in life was to be a wife and to not have a career and to have babies. And she said, fuck you. Like, that's not who I'm going to be. And they hated her for that. And she left after 3 years. But because I was married off at 17 and moved into the home with this man that was now my husband, it was harder for me to get out of the web of lies. I was stuck in that.
yep.
So I became more pressured to be this perfect wife and this perfect recruiter for them. And they knew I had so much power. So they liked that I was able to, I feel like I was a really still authentic in there. I loved people. I hated to see people hurt. So I was always trying to like make people feel better. And because of
Mm.
that, I was really authentic. And I think that was one of the reasons they didn't like me, because they really, there was so many people in that place that like hated me. They to this day I still can't believe how many people love me. Like, I know that sounds so crazy, but I think that one of the things that trips me out to this day is how many people love me. Like strangers, like I will go out and I will have people come up to me and we will just instantly click. We will talk, we will hug, we will dance, we will just love on each other. um I'll be at work, and I'm like, people will come in, we'll have like 45-minute conversations at work. And I don't even, they're strangers. I have strangers gift me things that I will, and my other coworkers like, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't even know what it feels like to be loved authentically by so many people. And from the outside, I may look like, oh man, you're just used to that. No, you don't understand. I used to be in a fucking environment that fucking hated me. They fucking hated me. The only reason why they even liked me and put up with me is because they knew that my authentic power was able to recruit people, because I genuinely did not like to see people hurt and be in pain. And I thought, I was brainwashed to believe that the only way these people, these poor people, could be better and feel better and get to heaven is by this stupid message that they brainwashed me with. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
authentically bringing them in because I was like loving on them and giving them community. And now I have an authentic community that absolutely loves me and adores me. And I'm not kidding you. There's times where I just sit there and I don't even know how to take it. Like, I get so many messages, I get so many comments, I get so many people who reach out to me, and the things they tell me, I'm like, to this day, it's probably one of the things that I'm still trying to get used to, is allowing these people to love me so much. And like, they're so authentic. They're like so authentic. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what it feels like to have so many people like me. Like, it's and genuinely, like like
Yep.
cheerleading, like rooting for me, like cheering me on. They're like, you're so awesome and we love you, they're just going on and on. Like even simple, like even the compliments of like, you're so beautiful and I love your makeup and I love how you dress. Like even that, I'll be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, because in that environment, in that cult, they used to hate, at the leaders' wives, they hated me because their husbands would look at me and their husbands
Yeah.
would stare me down. And I was a rebellious woman in that place. I would still dress the way I wanted to. If I wanted to wear a tight skirt, I'd wear a tight. Oh, you want me to wear a skirt under my knee? Okay, I'll wear a skirt under my knee, but guess what? It's gonna be tight. Oh, you want me to wear a skirt that's underneath my below my knee? Okay, but I'm gonna wear some big old stilettos with it.
There you go.
And
Yep.
yeah, and so they hated me because of that. They hated that about me, especially the women. They hate it. So I didn't have cheerleaders. I didn't have people who genuinely like loved me and supported me. And I had one. I had one. And when I began to speak up to her about the shit that was happening to me, at that moment she stood up for me. But as soon as she told her husband, and he was a big leader in that place, he made her shun me. So I was fucking shunned inside of the environment. Like I hadn't even left yet, and she had to shun me. She had to sit
Mm,
on the other side of church. She couldn't even talk to me anymore. She had to pretend I was invisible, all because I spoke up about the shit that was going on, and I was finally waking up to it. And she was the only one that had always been there for me and loved me. And I spoke up and I loved this girl, man. She was my fucking best friend. I loved her with all my heart. And when I told her that, and she told her husband, and her husband made her shun me, and she had to pretend that I was invisible, can you imagine the fucking pain? The one
mhm.
person, the only supporter you have in this congregation, and they have to shun you, and they're right there, and they have to pretend that you don't exist. It's
Yeah, that's
psychologically abusive, traumatizing. It's torment.
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that they were so obvious about it because like in the religion where I was, I think they're very covert about like you're shunned, but it's not as like obvious, but it's still very hurtful and um it's still I mean it's still very hard for me to like meet people and I've learned a lot since I left, but it's like people who don't owe me anything will be like, I'm so proud of you. You've done such a great
Mm,
job. And it's like, I can barely like even take it without crying because I
yes.
am so used to people being like, oh, you're so
Hmm.
selfish and you like want attention and all this stuff that's
Yes.
nothing like who I am. But they're like, this is the agenda we're assigning to you. And so it's hard to even it's hard to I understand where you're coming from when you're like, I can't believe all these people care about me and think I'm
Mm.
awesome because I've been told so much how what a sinner and what a bad person I am. So
Yes, it's so sad. Like you don't even know what it feels like, and that's probably the main thing that I've can be hard for me to process is the fact that that I've created this life for myself and I've been so authentic and have so many people who cheer for me, and I don't know what that feels like. I don't know how. I'm like, oh my gosh, and they don't want anything from me. They're not trying to make me do things that I don't want to do. They're not just doing that because, I'm giving them gain, and I'm making them look good. And
mhm.
and it's refreshing, man. And at the end of the day, like people have gone through all the things they've gone through, listening, people who are listening, they've gone through, if we brought them on and they told us their horror story, we'd cry, our jaw would drop, and we all have these painful experiences and these horrible things that we've gone through. And the fact that you can escape a cult, you can escape religion. Would you say that you're like, are you spiritual, religious? Like, what are your beliefs now?
I am pretty anti-religion. I'm very spiritual and I think that I don't know where I stand on heaven and hell, but I know that like I think we can respect everyone and the higher power that they serve and I don't think that there's one way and like one religion and just the I just don't want to ever belong to any organized religion because I have finally started to like understand I have my own instincts, and if I just trust my own instinct, like
Mm-hmm.
things will work out for me, and I don't need, specifically I don't need a man telling me what I should and shouldn't do, because they give bad advice in my opinion, on a lot of things. And so I've just been, I I've been doing a lot more spiritual stuff, and that was also like um frowned upon and a big sin. So I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
navigate being authentic and what are people going to think when I'm, doing more spiritual things. But I have a lot of peace, and so that's just good enough for me. I don't need it to make sense to other people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I just have a lot of peace doing what I'm doing. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And if people have feelings about it, it's things that they're going to have to work out amongst themselves, because it just doesn't have anything to do with me if they have feelings on what I'm doing or not doing.
Yeah, and you're the one that lived your horror story. You've lived your this painful experience and story that you lived through and having to heal through. And I feel like you now have permission and you are allowed to what do with what you have, what you've gone through. You have permission to do whatever it is that you want to do with it. Like, do you want to share it? Do you want to create a whole different mind shift and a whole different route? Like, you're able to do that. Like, you're an adult, and
Mm-hmm.
at any time I could have got up and left that place, and I honestly did not believe that. I did not believe that I could have got up. Like, I literally could have. Like, literally, people who have not been to court are like, how did you just not get up and leave? Like, I could have. I could have like stood up and been like, fuck all y'all, and left. Like, I could have done that, but I couldn't even imagine doing that because it was like, I'm gonna fucking die if I do that. I was
Yeah,
so
it's definitely the brainwashing keeps people from even questioning if they can or can't do it. Very, it's, it should be studied, I think. I don't know, but I just can't believe the amount of people who like buy into it and are like, oh, like it has to be these specific things. Each religion has their specific things that you have to do or not do. And it's just so unrealistic that it's amazing to me that so many people buy into it.
yeah, and we're vulnerable, and like you, I feel like it's harder. You were born into it, or not, you were right at 7 years old, so you were like a child. I went in at 16. It's like different pieces for everybody. The vulnerability, the love bombing in community is what grabbed me. It grabbed me. I went through a haunted house, and they specifically did a haunted house, also known as hell houses, and they specifically target teenagers. I went through this hell house, not knowing it was a church, not knowing it was going to be this organization. I go
Oh my
through it,
gosh.
and at the very end, you can't leave unless you give them your information. I give them my name, my number, my address, and for the next 2 months, they are at my door, knocking, 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 inviting me, inviting me, inviting me. Um, so my mom just thinks it's a church. I start going. My dad is like, "Why are you at church all the time? Why do these people come over here all the time? Why are they calling you all the time?" They would have revivals that will last a whole week, and they'd want me to go every day to church. My dad's like, "What is going on? Why?" And my dad sees the red flags. He sees it. And my mom's just like, "Oh, it's a church. They're just like helping you be a better teenager so you won't be out there doing bad stuff."
Oh my god.
And 17 and a half years later, I finally left, but I left with so much trauma, so much confusion for life, having to come back into a society that had been living the whole time. Like, I remember just watching people on vacation, walking around laughing and going to like country clubs and watching people country dance. And I used to sit there and cry because I would look at these people country dancing, young girls, 22 years old, and I'd sit there and cry because I'd be like, that could have been me. Look at them. They're just dancing and laughing and enjoying life.
Mhm.
And at fucking 21, 22, I was already raising babies, man. And it was like, I didn't even get to live my life. I didn't even get to, was that even my choice? Would I have chose that? Who knows? I'll never know,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember when I was working at this one place, I had just left the cult and I was working at this one place, and the chef guy was like, what did you do before you worked here? And I was just like, I was a stay-at-home mom. Like, that's all I ever did. Like, I didn't really work. And usually that's really cool. People are like, oh, that's really cool. But I'll never forget with this guy. He looked at me and he goes, but is that what you wanted? And I'll fucking never forget that, because I didn't even know how to answer him. I was like, I don't know if that's what I wanted. Like, it just,
Yeah. It's probably
no one
also
had,
the first time you were asked that too.
yeah, nobody ever asked me if that's what I wanted. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't regret being there for my kids, but like, was that my choice? I don't know. Was it my choice to marry this guy? They made it seem like it was, because if not, it would have been illegal. So they knew what they were doing. They had to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that it looked like it was my choice. And so they did that. And then everything else, you don't know boundaries. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to stand up for yourself. You think it's wrong. So you're just letting them do whatever, and you're just going with
Mm-hmm.
it. And finding yourself, I was fucking suicidal. I was depressed. I would just fucking cry all the time. I thought it was normal to cry every day excessively. It wasn't until I moved away to Dallas with my sister and got my own apartment that I realized that I was not crying excessively every day. And that's when it hit me. I don't think that was normal, to cry every day. I would go a week without crying and I would be like, wow, I went a whole week. I went a whole 2 weeks without fucking on my knees excessively crying. That is crazy, because you think that I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was normal to just cry like that all the time. So
Yeah,
that's a horror story.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm just super glad that you're out and you're making decisions and healing, and I love the fact that how we met. I'm so glad that it was meant to be how we met.
Mm-hmm.
um and I feel like it was meant to be, and similar stories with each other. And what are your goals or dreams for the next part of your life?
Hmm. I I don't know. I actually think I would love to hold retreats like the one that you held. I
Mm.
would love to do that. My daughter and I have been talking about it's like years down the line, but I just want to um get in touch with who I am and what makes me happy and do that instead of what's like expected of me. But
Mhm.
I could see myself in a realm of like healing and helping other people
Mm.
heal too. So,
Yes, I love it. Probably another reason we were meant to meet. Hosting retreats is one of my top favorite things to do, because we're able to garner this energy and strength from each other, and to know that we have community and it's authentic. It's not trying to gain anything, but trying to naturally, organically heal and bring that up in ourselves so that we can know our own power. And I think that was probably one of the main reasons why they always went against, oh, you can't dress like that. You can't wear short skirts or tight clothes, or trying to get us to not wear makeup. Or it's like, because in our sexuality, there is power. There is power in a woman's sexuality. There is power in the womb and in the portal. There is power automatically. Automatically, when a baby girl is
mhm,
born, she already holds a power that this human realm is going to, that has been taught to hate that and to push it down and push that power down. And it's amazing when you see a woman who has come fully alive in her power. It is, oh, intoxicating. It is, I love to see it. I love to be that. And I love to teach other women that that is the power that's always been inside of them, all because they have a portal, all because they have a womb. It's there. And so that's one of the, that I think that's like one of the top things is, if you can heal that, if you can heal that. And I think that I did that unconsciously when I left the cult. I just naturally began to heal that without realizing it. One,
Mm-hmm.
by dancing, and dancing very intimately. And I think that that healed my, that brought a power to the surface, because I naturally felt this just power of empowerment over my body. And that's the, look at your body. Your body was with you from 7 years old when you went into that place and started doing all that shit. And your body has grown and is still with you right now, and it's going to be with you to your last breath. Your body is your God. Your body is the only thing that is with you, remains with you, and stays with you, supports you, holds you up. Even, even in illness and sickness, all it's trying to do is repair and give you signs and messages that something is not going on right. It's something's wrong. It's alerting you. And that's what sickness is. Sickness is, it's just messages and alerting you. And I feel like the body is what needs to be worshipped. And if we can, not a God, the body is God, because the body is the, I think about my body and I just I just want to savor it. I just want to drench it in love, because I look at my body, I look at my hands, I look at my feet, and I go, feet, you were the feet that stood me up in all of those horrific times of trauma in that environment. My hands were the ones that held myself and wiped my tears. Like, my body is to be worshipped. Your body is to be worshipped, because your body is the only thing that was there from day one, that helped you, that was there with you. Like when you're alone, your body is with you. Your body is with you. Your body is meant to be worshipped. And I feel like the body, that's what God is. That's what God is. That is
Yeah.
your body. Your body, my body, all. So we're all individual gods. And I think that healing that is the main tool. Is any environment that you escape or leave from, whether it's in a cult, a relationship, whatever. Healing the body. If we can begin to heal the body, that's going to be one of the top things. And it doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, like going into it even severely of like, oh my gosh, what are 30 things that I got to do to heal my body? Because when you leave an environment like that, you've already been told what to do for so long that honestly, you don't want to do nothing. You want to do
Yeah.
anything that you want to do, what you want to do. And that's number one. Okay. So number one, find pleasure to your body, because your body is what has suffered all that it has been through and has suffered. It has been to your body. So if you can find pleasure, bring pleasure to the body. For me, it was dancing. For me, it was sexual experiences. That was for me, and that empowered me. So that's going to be one. Find what pleasures the body and do it. This is going to help tremendously, is that. And then starting to heal the body is touching the body affectionately yourself, speaking to your body affectionately, thanking your body for being there with you through all of the pain, thanking your feet, your hands, caressing your cheeks, hugging yourself, sitting with your hand over your heart, and just feeling the heartbeat, because that same heartbeat underneath your hand was the same heartbeat that was beating in all of those traumatic times and moments that you thought you were not going to survive or make it out alive. So start with the body. That's what I would say to anybody listening that is contemplating leaving a toxic environment or has recently left a toxic environment. um, Healing the body first with pleasure. First with pleasure, because if you try to heal the body with like doing things that you need to do, it's going to put a lot more pressure on your body. It's going to make your body feel more shameful and guilty. It's just going to add
Mm-hmm.
up. And so start with just the pleasure. Start with the pleasure, figuring out what feels good to your body, so that it's almost like a vacation for your body. Your body's been in survival mode for so long, figuring out what it is that the body loves. Whether it's, there's so many things. You have to figure it out
Mm-hmm.
individually, because and so pleasuring the body, then healing the body, which goes hand in hand, because pleasuring will heal the body. And then after you can begin to heal the body, that's whenever you can begin to go forward and begin processing the things that you've gone through. Because if you try to process what you have gone through, it's too much. It's too much. You've experienced way too much. You're not meant to try to process it, especially not right away. And then the third thing I would say is don't put a timetable to your healing. Don't say, okay, I have to heal in 6 months. Oh, I gotta suck it up and get over this. And Kali, it's already been 6 years and I'm still talking about this shit, or I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah.
no, there's no time. Okay. You were in it since you were 7. I was in it for 17 and a half years. It's going to take time, but as long as you're pleasuring the body, healing the body, you will begin to process the emotions. Because once the body knows that it is healing and it is being pleasured, it believes you. Your body has to believe you in order for it to believe it can be healed. If your body doesn't believe you, it's going to stay stuck. It's going to stay stuck in trauma. It's going to stay stuck in the memories. It's going to stay stuck in triggers. So, having that relationship with your body, getting into relationship with your body, especially what religion does to your body, makes you hate your body and makes you
Mhm.
feel evil because you're a woman and you have a beautiful body. You have shapes and curves, and you have your it. Religion makes all of that evil and gross and disgusting.
Mhm.
So your body has to believe that you're for it. Your body has to believe that, and it's not just by saying it. It has to feel it. And once it begins to feel it, then you can begin to process the emotions with love and tenderness and compassion. And so a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so this is one of the things that I do professionally. I guide specifically women. I've worked with men as well, but specifically with women, I guide them on that journey, and I'm there with them as a support and guiding them and helping them to get the tools and resources that they need, energetically and spiritually, to begin that process, so that when they go on to process the emotions on their own, they will move on with all the tools that I've taught them. So they're able to do it. And the messages I get after, they're like, I just processed an emotion and I used the tool that you taught me. That is worth $1 million. I'm like, if that's what I do, that is what I do. And so, because you're going to go on and you're going to process your emotions, you're going to create your own life. But if you can learn how to do this and take this with you, you'll never forget it. And eventually, this becomes bigger than what you went through. And what you went through becomes a story that you share to show them what the ending looks like, because people already know pain. People already know suffering. Okay. We've all done it. We've all lived through our own pain and suffering. But what many of them don't know is the end. They don't know that it can end. They don't know that it can end with happiness and love and compassion and tenderness and gentleness, and that you can have community authentically, and you can have people rooting for you, cheering you on, supporting you, telling you that they love you and that you're awesome, and doing it authentically. People don't know that. That's what they don't know. They already know pain. They already know suffering. They already know that depression and anxiety. They want to know, does it end? Does it
Mhm.
end? Am I going to live this life forever? Am I going to stay stuck in this forever? That is what they're wanting to know. And so that's what we do. That's what I do. That's what I love to do. And from the sounds of it, that's what you want to do. And I'm really proud of you. And I know that that's going to happen, because the world needs more of those kind of people, to show them that there is a beautiful light that can surround you, even while you're processing, while you're healing, while you're working through everything you went through. There is a light that will embody you. And that's what will help you keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I know it was a lot, but I feel all of that was meant to be said for whoever's listening, for because that's the beauty of it. That's the dessert of it. So yeah, do you have anything else you want to share, Amber?
I don't think so. I think I kind of covered it all.
I'm really proud of
It's a
you for
lot.
sharing. Yeah, I know. There's like so much stuff we could still say. There's so much, I'm sure, of your story that you could share that, is just terrible. And the fact that you're here talking with us today and you're still here and you survived and you made it. I mean, I congratulations to your body. Congratulations to my body for making it out, for our feet that
Yeah.
walked us out of that environment. I mean, our feet walked us out, our legs walked us out of
Mhm.
that environment. I mean, damn, we should be fucking worshipped because we, you know what I mean? Like, not only did
Yeah.
you do it for yourself, but you did it for your children to show them a fierce, empowered mother that a woman does not have to stay in an environment that honestly wants to destroy her.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's an honor, an honor. You're an honorable woman, and you're an honorable mother to have that, with me too. So I'm just really proud of us.
Me too.
And
I Yeah, it's been a journey, but I'm glad I am where I'm at right now. It feels great.
good. I'm so happy that you're at a better place, and it only gets better. Yeah, life happens, but it is it gets really fucking good. Like, I remember when I was thinking about leaving the cult, and they'd always preach about, if you leave, your life is going to be miserable. Man, I just want to let you know, if you're listening, I am fucking not miserable. I am the happiest I've ever been. I am having so much fun, and my body is in so much pleasure. My body knows pleasure now. I'm so happy. My body's like having a party in pleasure, when
Mhm.
before it was so suppressed, oppressed, denied. I was always crying. Who the fuck wants to cry every day,
Yeah.
No, I want my body to feel good. I want it. So yeah. So let's do more of that, Amber.
Yes. Thank you. I will.
Yeah, and anybody listening, just think of three things this week. Think of three things that you can do this week to pleasure the body and heal the body. And then three ways that you can process your emotions after you've done pleasure, healing, then process. So pleasure, healing. I want to leave that three things for anybody listening or who wants help going forward. Pleasure, healing, and then process. Don't try to process before pleasure or healing. Let's do that after, because it will help the body feel more at ease, and your body will feel more protected, more safe, and it will believe you. It will believe you. So that's what we want to end this uh, beautiful discussion with. Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing your story again. You're so brave. And
Of course. Thank you.
yes. All right. Until next time, thank you all so much. This is Mandy Speaks Up. Please share this episode if you're watching and you want to share this. Share the link with those that may um, be in some way like this will help them. This discussion will help them. All righty. Bye bye.
Bye.